If you need help deciding whether Empire of the Ants is the right bug-themed RTS for you, this video will answer all of your questions. Starting with a 60-second, too long didn't read overview of the game, then seeing what it's like to actually play it by examining the gameplay loop and mechanics, before answering some more practical questions to help you decide whether this game is worth your time and money today. Empire of the Ants is based on the book of the same name by Bernard Werber. The visuals and music are stunning, leading to ridiculous levels of immersion provided your hardware can handle it. During the short to medium-length campaign, you will sprint, jump, and crawl upside down through a gorgeous world of undergrowth and betrayal, scouting in the middle of enemy territory, building a network of upgradable nests while commanding legions in battle against a variety of foes in true RTS fashion. Although the story and missions leave much to be desired, the sheer gorgeousness will have you wandering around wide-eyed and open-mouthed. But if PvP is more your thing, that is where Empire of the Ants truly shines, with a deceptively deep set of RTS mechanics that are easy to pick up, while providing a host of tactical options, playing against friends and strangers alike across a modest variety of multiplayer modes. So if you fancy being a part of something that looks and sounds like a David Attenborough documentary, with a genuinely fun set of RTS mechanics, while forgiving a lack of depth in the campaign missions, Empire of the Ants might be your cup of tea. If that hasn't put you off, then grab a drink and get comfortable as we run through the detail of what you actually do in Empire of the Ants, starting with the campaign and gameplay in general, before moving on to the multiplayer. In the story of Empire of the Ants, you play as a rather inconspicuous ant named 103,603rd, to be precise. Ants in this game are intelligent, can speak with each other, along with a variety of other creatures, and generally are well organized and numerous enough to consider themselves in control of the surrounding forest. You begin the game by chasing a butterfly to help you get used to controlling your ant in the third person, before your queen commands you to set off on a mission to a neighboring ant nest that is in desperate need of help due to an unexpected flood. From there you proceed through a variety of missions, spying on enemies from above at night, helping to locate lost ants before the floodwaters rise, and generally fighting off termites that are looking to take advantage of the colony's weakened state. But once you return victorious, you begin to unravel a mystery as you find not all is what it seems with your own colony. Your first few hours with this game will be spent with your jaw on the floor as you take in the stunning visuals, sounds, and overall immersion. But once you get into the middle and end stages of the campaign, you will find that immersion is let down by some subpar, uninspired missions. But you don't need to complete every single mission available before being able to move on to the next section of the story. The game takes its time to introduce you to movement and RTS mechanics slowly, as the tutorial forms a part of the campaign over many missions. It's a good tutorial, which is handy, as the RTS element in particular does take a while to get your head around, in part because you have to interact with various small nests by crawling on them to navigate a radial menu, choosing from many upgrade options, along with upgradable legions that fight and gather resources. And you even have powers you can use to buff your troops, all while running around upside down as your own ant. So there's a lot to handle at times, but more on the detailed RTS elements in a moment. Although the tutorial is effective, it does take a while to get the hang of sticking to everything and walking upside down. You can sprint and you can jump reasonably far. Yeah, this isn't a realistic ant simulator at all. But you'll find yourself climbing up a variety of plants and objects and watching your legions fight while on the ceiling, making it rain dead bugs. It's a sight to behold. Sprinting can be annoyingly unwieldy, but overall, these movement and RTS controls work well with a controller, which is rare for an RTS. Although there are a variety of missions, the core gameplay in Empire of the Ants focuses on an RTS skirmish, where you start with a home nest and have to expand across the map by capturing neutral nests, and eventually fighting for control of enemy nests, upgrading your nests and a relatively small number of legions along the way. Each nest can be upgraded through 3 levels, unlocking more powerful upgrades each level. There are also a limited number of upgrade slots in each nest, forcing you to choose your upgrades carefully, bearing in mind that if you lose that nest, you lose that nest's upgrades. You can also only have 1 ant legion per nest, again forcing you to choose carefully and to expand. Each nest has 5 different sections containing upgrades. Starting with economy, there are 2 types of resource in this game, food and wood, which you gain over time by constructing woodyards and mushroom farms. But you can only build one of those per nest, and they get more expensive to build each time. Next, you can choose to expand your storage. Then there's the chemical laboratory, which is what unlocks level 2 upgrades as a whole. There are a few other economy upgrades that either expands the number of legions you can command or buff you slightly in some way, as well as the chemical library that unlocks the 3rd tier of upgrades. Needless to say, building woodyards and mushroom farms are a priority at first, and rushing the chemical laboratory to unlock level 2 legions is a must in my opinion. Next up is the legions section, where you choose which legion you want to belong to that nest. At tier 1, you choose from 3 types of legion: warriors, workers, or gunners, which have a rock, paper, scissors relationship. At tier 2, you can have tier 2 versions of those legions, and you can also have a support legion that will buff your other legions, as well as a super predator like hornets, which are basically tanks. Then finally, at 3rd level, you can unlock the 3rd tier of warriors, workers, and gunners. Once you've purchased or upgraded a legion, it takes time for them to spawn at that nest, so timing is everything. But you can speed up that timer by consuming food, if you have it available. Next, we have the powers section. You choose 4 powers to take with you into the match. You can then unlock 3 tiers of those powers with food. They generally buff your troops, either their speed, damage, or defense, and can scare enemy legions away for a time. Powers can be upgraded, are activated for a short time across a limited radius, and will take time to recharge before they can be used again. Next up is the information section, again coming with 3 upgradable tiers. One unlocks a new minimap, another gives you an alert when the enemy is interacting with a nest. You can see the upgrades an enemy nest has, or even exactly where enemy legions are. Information is powerful, after all. Then finally, we have defense. You can build a wooden barrier around each nest that the enemy will need to break before they can start to damage the nest itself. You can employ gunners or guards to defend that nest and upgrade everything too. Although you run around the map as your own ant, you can't actually interact with anything other than the radial menu to upgrade your nests and pointing and clicking to control your legions. You have a stamina bar and a health bar that will reduce when you get too close to enemy legions, but you can't fight, and even when you're taking damage, there's no animation of you getting attacked, which is disappointing. Controlling your legions has been designed with those playing with a controller in mind. You scroll to select individual legions, so you can click to tell them where to move, attack, or defend, or you can select all your legions in one go and tell them what to do. That is the vast majority of the control you have over your legions. They move relatively slowly, and once they're engaged with an enemy legion, they are often stuck there until they are the winner or they die. But if you can get your ant up high, it is possible to micromanage your legions to great effect. Ultimately, your goal is to take over more and more nests to expand your economy, army, and upgrades, eventually taking out the enemy's main nest. It's a game of attrition and a race to output level 2 and level 3 legions, as each upgrade massively outperforms the previous. I've personally found the gameplay loop very enjoyable and reminiscent of old-school RTS games, while obviously looking modern day and having you right in the thick of it, even if all you can do is stand and watch. I've mentioned it several times already, but I cannot overstate how great this game looks, but also the sounds, whether the soundtrack or the ambient noises of bumblebees buzzing overhead. It genuinely feels like you're in a nature documentary as you sprint around a nest surrounded by hundreds of other ants, following each other in lines, carrying food, and crawling over every object in sight. This is Unreal Engine 5, showing us what it can do. Although the game does have insanely strong visuals and a fun set of RTS mechanics, there are several issues with this game that I wanted to highlight. The game could do with more units, a greater variety to mix things up. The campaign could be longer. It's not desperately short, but considering some of the missions feel like filler, it is disappointing how long it takes to complete. The fighting animations could be more varied as they get boring pretty quickly. The game doesn't really have anything to do with actual ant behaviors, and you don't even go underground, except for a few short cutscenes. Now that may or may not bother you, but if you are looking for a realistic ant simulator, you'll have to look elsewhere. It's disappointing that your ant can't really interact with anything, only give orders and upgrades. On PC, the minimum requirement is a GTX 1060, and recommended is a 3080, which isn't exactly cheap. However, it's worth noting that the game is basically bug-free. I've experienced zero issues, and there's also an arachnophobia mode, as giant spiders are genuinely terrifying when you're a little ant. Multiplayer and PvP are very well done in this game. The mechanics described earlier, where you capture and upgrade nests in a tug-of-war, is bloody addictive, even if it could do with some more units. You can play versus friends and strangers in a 1v1, 3-player free-for-all, or custom game against the AI, and the game has a decent post-match replay function too. Hopefully by now you have an idea of what it's like to actually play the game, so let's address some other, more practical considerations that might affect your purchasing decision. The game does take a while to pick up, but if you are an RTS player, you'll pick up the RTS mechanics pretty quickly. But if you aren't that familiar with RTS, you should expect it to take a few hours for the game to really click. But fortunately, you can do that while playing the gorgeous campaign. Whether it's a campaign mission or a skirmish, the game is mostly split up into short and sharp gameplay sessions. Of course, it can make 3 hours pass in what feels like 5 minutes, but if you only have an hour to play occasionally, Empire of the Ants would still be a good game for you. You can play the multiplayer against your friends, but the campaign is a solitary experience. At $40, €40 and £35, this game represents decent value for money, considering it's nearly half the price of most AAA releases these days. There is a digital deluxe upgrade, but I'd stay clear of that and save your money. But interestingly, it is possible to purchase Empire of the Ants as part of a bundle with Empires of the Undergrowth, which may not be as pretty as Empire of the Ants, but it is definitely more ant-like in its gameplay, so is an interesting consideration. So with all that said, who is Empire of the Ants right for? As always, it depends what you're into. If you're looking for a game that simulates ants, then this is simply not the game for you. It may look stunning, but it doesn't even try to recreate what ants actually do. If you enjoy taking your time to explore gorgeous environments, then you could spend many happy hours just wandering around the game's campaign maps. But if you get into the real nitty-gritty of this, the campaign missions are kind of boring after a while, and the immersion can only do so much to cover that up. So if you love a solid RTS campaign, I need to give you a clear warning that you will be frustrated by the lack of imagination in the campaign. However, if you enjoy competitive RTS games, the multiplayer mode is genuinely fun, fast and furious. The game does need more units and factions, and due to the way it forces you to expand, it's really not made for players who like to turtle. But it is otherwise a great RTS experience that just needs a little bit more depth to become something special. If you have any further questions, please feel free to ask, or if you already own the game and have some additional information you'd like to add, please let us all know in the comments below. If you found the video useful, please leave a like for the algorithm gods, and if you enjoy this style of review, consider subscribing for more content, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.